We're on the Calder and Hebble navigation, where we spent the night moored on Battyeford Cut just above Battyeford Lock, and it looks like today is going to be a wet one. That's not going to put us off though, as we want to be in Huddersfield this afternoon. We've got a booking through the Standage Channel in a few days' time, and after our booking there's only one available booking left for the rest of the year, so we don't want to miss our slot. To the north, the River Calder runs parallel to this cut, and the South Pennine Boat Club is situated along the long narrow island between the two watercourses. That means that these boats are essentially moored on an island, and while there's a footpath that runs the length of the island, it must be a very peaceful place to stay. This bridge carries a road to the island, which then continues over the river and onwards towards Mirfield just north of here. There's a towpath on the south side of the cut and a few isolated houses. Beyond them is a railway line that follows the route of the navigation for much of its length. This cut is actually really pretty, and it feels like a little oasis of peace and wildlife. After a mile on the cut, we pass under a bridge that carries the footpath to the island, and then we go through the Battyeford floodgates, which are fixed open today. We rejoin the River Calder just above a weir. Almost immediately we pass under the Battyeford hauling bridge. Then we pass under a railway bridge. After a mile or so on the river, we stop at the pontoon just below the Cooper Bridge lock. Michael gets off to operate the lock and finds that he only needs to drain a small amount of water from the chamber before he can open the gates for Perseverance. We're now travelling parallel with the Huddersfield Broad Canal, which is about 150 metres to the south of the Calder and Hebble. To get to it though, we have to travel as far as Cooper Bridge Junction and then turn almost 180 degrees back on ourselves to reach the bottom lock. There's another island created by the cut here, and this time it's to the south of the channel. There's one lone house on the island just before the bridge that gives Cooper's Bridge Lock and Cooper's Bridge Junction their names. The house looks quite isolated and it doesn't appear to have any vehicle access. Then just beyond the bridge there's an office building and another house, but these ones do have road access. There's some visitor moorings along the north side of the cut here. As soon as we've passed through the floodgates, we reach Cooper Bridge Junction, where we do a very hard turn to leave the Calder and Hebble navigation. We're on the outskirts of Huddersfield now, and there's some wonderful old mill buildings along the navigation, which makes sense as Huddersfield was once a really prominent mill town. We pass under Cooper Bridge again, and yes, this is the same bridge that we've just been under 50 metres north of here. Just before we reach the weir, Michael drops George and I off so we can open the gates on the first lock of the Huddersfield Broad Canal, which will take us off the river. There's a large boom across the weir, and just beyond it, around the bend, the River Colne flows into the River Calder. Honestly, this lock doesn't feel very loved. It's a little scruffy, and there's a lot of duckweed in the water, which doesn't help. There's an old lock cottage on the lock side which was built in the early 1800s. This canal was opened in 1776 and was originally called the Sir John Ramsden Canal. It was named after a family who owned some of the land that the canal was built on and who were instrumental in pushing for the project to go ahead. For a short canal, it's just under 4 miles long, it has quite an interesting history. Its 9 wide locks can accommodate boats that are up to 57 feet and 6 inches long. Originally, when the Huddersfield Broad Canal was built, goods were loaded and unloaded in Huddersfield and carried over the Pennines by road. When the Huddersfield Narrow Canal was built 35 years after the Broad Canal, together they made a trans-Pennine crossing to Manchester. This route wasn't as successful as it was hoped it would be for a number of reasons. The Narrow Canal had a lot of locks, and so it was quite labour intensive, and these were long narrow locks, which meant that the 70-foot boats that used them were too long to use the short locks on the Broad Canal. For this reason, goods had to be reloaded onto different boats in Huddersfield. The Huddersfield Canal route also had competition from the Rochdale Canal, which was built at around the same time and linked directly to Manchester, from where it left the Calder and Hebble navigation 8 miles upstream from Cooper Bridge Junction. The Rochdale Canal could accommodate wide beams up to 72 feet long, and so it was less restrictive than the Huddersfield route. Despite this, the Huddersfield Broad Canal was actually quite prosperous until 1945, when the Narrow Canal was abandoned, cutting off the cross-Pennine route. The Broad Canal continued to be used for mainly coal transportation into Huddersfield until 1953. After years of campaigning and hard work, the Narrow Canal reopened in 2001, and so we're able to take this route across the Pennines once more. Michael's volunteered to be on lock-keeping duty for the rest of the journey, which is good for me. The last few times we've come this way, I've been on windlass duty, so it's nice to see the canal from the boat for a change. Just under the railway bridge we reach the next lock, which is Colne Bridge Lock. I shelter with the boat under the bridge while Michael prepares the lock. We filmed this video last October, which is why we're able to take this route. Sadly, the Narrow Canal's been closed since March this year due to issues with water levels. This is another fairly shallow lock, and I stay in the boat while Michael wrestles with the gates. It sounds like this paddle mechanism could do with some grease. Colne Road Bridge is as old as the canal. It was built in 1775. It's around this point that I finally hear Michael calling me over the radio, and he's stuck at the last lock. I happily sailed on without realising that he wasn't following. Apparently the gate swung open as I left the lock, which left Michael stranded on the offside with no way to get back to the towpath. I begin to reverse the boat back to somewhere I can tie it up so I can run back and rescue him. But eventually a passerby comes along to shut the towpath side gate, which forms the bridge off the island. At this point the canal is following the route of the River Colne quite closely, and the Huddersfield railway line is following the route of the canal. The Bradley Viaduct once carried the Newton goods line. This railway line was in operation for less than 30 years, and now it just carries a cycleway across the water. Michael's ahead getting the next lock ready, and he messages to tell me to hang back as there's quite a strong bywash across the canal. When he tells me the lock's ready, I find out that I've got Perseverance stuck on the silt as the canal's very shallow here. After a brief period of wrestling with the boat, I get Perseverance free, and I'm finally on my way to the lock just as Michael runs back to investigate what's keeping me. Under another one of the beautiful brick bridges, and we're in Lock 3, which is called Lady Grave Lock. There seems to be no shortage of water here as it's pouring over the lock gates. There's a bit of delay here as one of the ground paddles is out of action and the handcuff lock on the other one is completely seized up. We start to fill the lock slowly using the gate paddles only, which isn't ideal as they create more turbulence in the lock. Michael's pretty determined, and after a while he gets the security lock off the ground paddle. I slowly travel towards the next lock while Michael goes ahead again to get it open. We're passing the Deaton area of Huddersfield, and there's another familiar stone footbridge just before the Longlands lock. Poor Michael looks miserable, but at least the paddles are working at this lock. We pass under the Whiteacre Mill Viaduct. It was built in 1867 and carries a 4-mile branch line from Deaton to Kirkburton. The line closed in 1965. Sadly, the bridge only carries vegetation now. This skew brick bridge is as old as the canal, but it's been extended with concrete on both sides, hiding the stone. It carries the A62. Water's being pumped into the canal here at quite a volume. This seems a bit strange to me, given how much water was flowing over the gates in the previous lock. Along here, the route of the canal deviates from the route of the river, so maybe it has something to do with that. The next lock is Turnpike Road Lock. The next lock is Reading Lock, and there's a really powerful flow coming into the canal. I assume it's the bywash bringing water around the lock rather than another pump. Either way, it makes entering the lock quite interesting. When you're crossing a flow like this, you need to use the steering to compensate for the force of water that's pushing the bow and then the stern as you pass. Lots of the lock gates on the broad canal are very leaky, and because these lock chambers are so short, the front of the boat has to sit right up against the gate, giving the bow a bit of a wash. We're next to a big playing field here, and ahead it's looking a lot more industrial again as we get closer to the town centre. A very straight section of the canal takes us to Fieldhouse Lock. The penultimate lock on the broad canal is Falls Lock. Finally, through the duckweed, we pass under Red Dolls Bridge into Red Dolls Lock. This is the top pound of the canal, and it's about 1 more mile to the town centre moorings. When the canal was built, this pound was made deeper than the rest of the canal, so it could act as a bit of a reservoir and store water for the locks.
How has my day been? It's been damp and uncomfortable, because I had to put on all the waterproof clothing and everything this morning, because it was going to be damp. And then it was really, really damp. And then there was a little bit of time where it wasn't so damp, and I had to make a run between 2 locks.
You didn't have to.
George was up unattended.
Well, I stood on here so I could keep an eye on him. But
you
yeah,
could see him, but
yeah.
Still, he's like tied to a post, and there's people walking dogs nearby and everything. And so I'm like, oh, I don't really want to leave him unattended, but I've got to get up to the next lock and back while you were waiting to go in at the one that was below.
Trying to be efficient.
Trying to be efficient. And after my experience earlier,
I was trying to be efficient by getting to the next lock.
Yeah, you were trying to be efficient by getting to the next lock.
Did you film any of that?
No, I couldn't. No. I was running.
So I think it was only the second lock of the flight.
No, it wasn't the second, because we'd already had the thing where I radioed you to tell you that there was water coming down. So I said hang back, and you'd said okay, I'll wait for further instruction. And then the next thing I know, you're sliding in through the gates, because
I forgot I was waiting.
I've gotten one open, then I've gotten the other open, and I'm like, she's waiting for further instruction. I've gotten the gates open. I'm about to give further instruction. Oh, that's what wait for further instruction means. Got it.
No, but what I was talking about is that time when I left the lock and I was trying to be efficient. I think this was the second lock.
Oh, when you drove off and left me stranded. Yeah, that was the second.
I was pootling along thinking, oh, if I can get to the next lock, I can get it open.
Yeah.
And then I hear like the bleep of the radio, but I don't hear what's said. So I was like, oh, did you say something? And he went, oh, good, you can hear me. Like really sounding really annoyed. And that's when I learned that you were stranded on the lock island.
Yeah, because on the bottom gates of the locks in the Huddersfield wide canal, there's never a full pathway across. So if there's no bridge available, you have to go to the top gates to cross. And on that lock in particular, there is a bridge, but it's behind a fence. That fence has a padlock on it. That padlock is just some company's padlock.
Yeah.
So there's no way to get to the bridge. It's a road bridge anyway, and it's a private bridge. But there's literally no way to get to the bridge. So I was stuck, unable to get across because the top one had flung itself open as you went out.
I just happily carried on. And yeah.
George is on the far side, and I'm like, well, George will no doubt be taken care of. I may end up starving, but people will feed George.
So Michael radioed me and said, oh, good, you can hear me. And I couldn't moor up where I was, so I reversed back to the bridge and found something to tie onto. So I did my first emergency reversing. And then I was running back to get you, and luckily a passerby.
Well, and I went down and tried to open the bottom, just open the bottom paddle a little bit to see if that would cause the gate to close itself. But it didn't, because the paddle was still open on the gate. So there's no,
it was just,
there just wasn't enough.
It was when you said to me, I'm going to have to climb across.
Well, that was the only remaining option.
I was like, don't do that. I was like, I'm coming to get you.
All of the other ones, they have a small platform. Like they have a platform you can properly stand on.
To do that.
And then there's a beam that you could.
And it says it's not an official bridge.
Yeah, it's not an official bridge, which means it's an unofficial bridge.
But that one didn't have it.
But that one didn't have that at all. So the only thing you could do is climb the beam itself, which would be fine, except for, they've put up these scaffolding pole type thing to give you a hand grip.
Yeah.
But that means that you now have to go around those to try and get your feet into a position. So it wouldn't. I'd have been able to make the way across, but it would have been dangerous.
And then the lock after that, I was like, you said to hang back because the water was coming over and there was a really strong bywash. So I hung right back and I was like, oh, the wind must have gone because I'm not moving. And then Michael said it was time for me to go through. And the reason I wasn't moving is because I'd grounded out without realising.
Yeah.
What other adventures did we have?
Well, we're about to have the adventure of there's a tree between us and that bridge we need to get to. There is room on the side, but it may make for an interesting turn.
It's a wide turn, and where we need to go wide, we can't go wide.
Me running between the locks would have been fine. I realized that my aerobic health is really quite good, because I was like, I am not having a problem running between the locks because my breathing's gotten hard. I'm breathing nice and clear. I could keep running. What's happened is these waterproof pants have turned the inside. I've got waterproofs over top of winter, so insulated trekking pants, over top of long underwear to try and keep warm, over top of my short underwear, over top of my skin. So, there's another number of layers of insulation here, and we've wrapped them inside of what is essentially a semi-breathable plastic bag, and now I've tried to run. So at the end of the first run, I'm like, I'm fine, no problem, I'm okay. Then I turn around and run back, and I get about 2/3 of the way, and there's this Rottweiler there, and I'm just like, you can smell it, can't you? I can't. I know.
Did you see the little Frenchie?
Yeah. Huge goggle eyes. Just enormous goggle-eyed French bulldog. And it really wanted to say hello to George. My favorite dog adventure of the day was the two staffies.
I tried to film that, but there was a smear on the lens, so yeah. I did film it, but it's not going to be very good.
There's these two female staffies, and one of them is like, I'm not sure about you, bark, 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 and the other one is like, I would like to give you a smooch. I'm not allowed to react to any humans saying, I'd like to give you a smooch, but I am allowed to react to dogs saying, I'd like to give you a smooch.
And Michael has always known that the best thing about being the one off the boat doing the locks is you get to meet all the dogs.
Yeah.
Because when I used to do most of the locks, and I'd meet dogs and I'd be interested, but not as obsessed as Michael. I could just see you on the boat,
jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're getting to meet all the puppies and the doggies and the sweet little thingies and me and dogs. Okay, see, I like the graffiti bear.
Yeah. Is your phone there to film it?
Yeah, it's inside here.
Like inside it, inside it.
Quick, fast. Fast like a bunny. Aha!
Ow.
If I can get it into camera
We're
mode.
gonna crash.
Look, I put it into camera mode and I push this button. There's the bear. Look at that.
Oh shit.
Turning learning into utility within hours.
It's like an old bridge. Oh my goodness. I'm shattered again.
Graffitiing that takes a bit of
Dedication.
you know, I appreciate the effort involved. Hi there. I appreciate the effort involved in applying graffiti to places that are that difficult to access.
But it should at least be good to graffiti, surely.
Well, that wasn't terrible. It was a tag, but it was a tag with some dimensionality and like highlighting and shadow and stuff. Like the kids tags where it's just, well, kids tags, often adults.
Alright, I'm going to turn that off now. I think I'm going to end the video here. If you watch after this, you'll see us arriving in Huddersfield, but it's too wet for the camera.
It's getting kind of damp.
Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, subscribe to Minimalist, Max and Foxy and more for talking at the tillers, real-time videos. Don't know what else.
If you can do anything about the weather, please shut off the rain.
Can you take short?
Sure.
Woo!